Okay, well here we are again for another episode of ClockMan's Crap. What you're looking at here is a 1983 Hunter original in chestnut brown. This one is quite a story. I noticed on one of my first visits to the ClockMan's house, this was many years ago, that sitting in the garage was a box for a Hunter Highbury 2, which if you've seen the demonstration videos from Paul's house, which I think I made about a year ago maybe, and they're on this channel somewhere, you can find them. That is in fact the fan that is installed in his master bedroom currently. And I asked him at what point he put that up, because I know he did that, and he said it was in the late fall, maybe even early winter of 2019 when the original fan happened to lay down and die. And I asked him about that original fan, and he said, well, it was an old Hunter. It weighed probably 40 pounds, he said, so I knew it was one of these. And he said it was one of those that was supposed to be oiled, hence that. And he said he kept it oiled, ran it pretty much day in, day out, until one day it unfortunately would only run slowly and eventually stopped working altogether. And he discovered this only when he came home from an overnight shift and was getting ready to get in bed and discovered that the ceiling fan wouldn't come on. So instead of going to sleep that day, he actually stayed up, went out and bought and installed the replacement fan. And I remember him saying to me, I was amazed at how heavy that old Hunter fan was. And he said it would have made a great boat anchor. I remember him saying that. And I asked him what had happened to that previous fan, and he said, well, he thought it was still around in the garage somewhere. And I said, well, I noticed the box sitting out there that the new fan came in. I said, would it by chance be in there? And he said, well, I don't know, but you can go look. And so I went and looked, and it was not in fact in there, but what was a really nice, and I'm walking over here to the other side of the room because I have them sitting here, was a really nice set of antique brass Hunter reverser irons, as you can see here, with these wingtip cherry blades. These were sitting in that box. And I asked him, I brought the box inside, showed him these blades. I said, do these go with it? And he said, no, he didn't think so. He said he didn't remember there being any brass on the old bedroom fan. He said, if you want the blades, though, you can have them. So I took the blades home, and I later, although I didn't find it at Paul's, I did later find a motor to go with them. Well, several years later, I don't remember what he and I were looking for, but I was over there helping him with something one day. I don't even remember what it was. And for whatever reason, we were looking for something in drawers in the master bathroom. And what we found, instead of whatever it was we were looking for, I don't even know what that was now. What we did find is that brown canopy and this round globe. And I asked him if he knew what that canopy went to, and he goes, oh yeah, that came off the fan that was in here. I'm like, okay, so that just proves it was original. Well, a couple of weeks ago, the other clock says hi, it's 10 o'clock, so it's going to go for a little bit. Anyway, a couple weeks ago we were over there playing cards, and I realized that a switch plate was missing in the house. And I went out to the garage in search of a replacement switch plate. Once again, couldn't find what I was actually going out there to look for. Did not find the switch plate, but I did find this motor laying in the garage under a disc. I have no idea how he got it there. I can tell you it was no fun to pull it out. And I went inside and I showed it to him, and he said, yes, I believe that is the motor from the master bedroom. It didn't have the blades with it, and he said that maybe those other ones that he had given me years earlier could have gone with it, although he certainly didn't remember the brass. I brought this thing home, hung it up that way with the antique brass irons on it, and he said, well, it could look right. He wasn't sure. It looked really bad to me, so on one of my recent excursions to the farm, I had this nice set of brown reverse air blades up there, so I just went ahead and brought those home. In something that I believe to bolster my theory about this probably being the master bedroom fan, it was locked up almost completely solid when I brought it home, something that he remembered happening with that other one. So I suspect it was probably this one, but I really don't know. Anyway, I took it apart. Turned out that the oil grooves had gotten plugged and the oil had gotten hot and crystallized, and so of course it couldn't work. Rather amazingly, it didn't have any horrible shaft wear. I really thought that it might, but it didn't. So I was able to clean it up, got it running pretty well. It does have an isolation ring, as you can see. There is a slight issue there. One of the grommets in the isolation ring has pretty much disintegrated. So I stole one from another one that I have sitting around. And apparently they're a little bit different, because you'll notice as it runs, the isolation ring is not quite level and the fan has a bit of a shimmy to it. But that doesn't really matter. The other thing I had to do to get this safely running is I had to put a different grommet on it. Where is the grommet that came with this one? I know it's sitting here somewhere because I just moved it. But I don't actually know where I set it. I literally just saw it. Oh well. Anyway, one of the snap rings that goes on the end of that is missing, and they had just wrapped it with a really thin piece of wire, which I don't know what they thought that was going to help, because if it gets past that wire, that was not going to save it. What did I do with that? I would really love to show you that. Who knows. Well, we'll turn the fan on to low speed while I continue to look for that. This is a 2-speed fan. It didn't become 3-speed until 84, although I think some 83s did have that option, but I guess later in 83, so this must be an earlier one. I don't know. I know it's here. I just have to figure out what I did with it. There's a wooden ball pull chain that I know came from Paul's. I swear I'm losing my mind. I literally had it in my hand. How long has this video been running? About 7 minutes. I probably had it in my hand 10 minutes ago. Because I remember saying to myself I wanted to show that in the video. I was working on this right over here by this table. Didn't fall into the auto harp case. I'll probably find it as soon as the video ends, because my life is a comedy, and that's exactly what happened. Oh, here it is. Is that it? Yes. Anyway, I have it set up a little bit better than they had it done previously. You'll notice it has one snap ring on it. The other one, the little wire there is just kind of wrapped around, but this was actually only partially wrapped around, and the other side of it was attached to the ground screw on the shackle. I don't know what they thought that was going to help, but I asked Paul about it, and he said he felt that was probably something his stepdad did, which I could definitely believe. So anyway, there's your low speed. About typical for one of these. We'll go ahead and crank it up to high. It's the globe making that noise. That's the only problem with originals. They're horrible for vibration. If anything's loose, you're gonna hear it. It surprisingly doesn't wobble that bad, given how horribly out of whack that isolation ring looks. I actually have 2 sets of these blades at the farm, and I almost wonder if I didn't bring home a matched set. I certainly could have done that. I probably should have checked before I put them in the car, but I didn't. And he who admits to not checking things before they put them in the car and drive 200 miles probably deserves exactly what he gets. But I can get away with this until my next farm venture, especially as I'm trying to make it once a month just to mow and crap like that. But well, I'm really getting off the subject. Let's go ahead and spin this thing down. It runs surprisingly smooth now, especially when you consider how bad it was to begin with. I do think I will convert this to be a 3-speed fan, just for shits and grins. But evidently I haven't been bothered to do that yet. so many things to do, so many projects, so many ideas, and so little time. Go ahead and give it a 0 to high as well, just because. Although you know how these perform, these need no introduction. And when you've seen one original perform, you've seen them all. There you go, a Hunter original for your viewing pleasure. Let's see what other ones I can get into trouble with here in just a little bit.